Recording now at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Set that thing up there. Okay. So everybody, thank you for sitting in for this speech. I did this topic on language and communication. This one over here. I set that one up because I got in trouble for not making enough eye contact last time. So basically I became interested in language and communication after I watched a documentary on dreaming and like what language that you dream in. And so I was pretty fascinated by that. And so we'll start off here by asking, who do you think played a bigger role in helping America get to the moon? Was it this guy? He looks good. Look at that. He's got the white suit and the helmet and everything like that. Neil Armstrong, he's the first man on the moon. Or this dude.
Whoa.
Nobody even knows who he is, right?
I feel like I do.
So I want you to think about that a little bit, and we'll... No, you didn't see him in Afghanistan. All right, so you guys think about that, and we'll move on. Another question is, do you think you could go even 5 seconds without using language? We'll give that a shot here. I bet you $1 million you can.
I lose.
Well, so here's the thing. If you thought to yourself, I can do that, or you looked at this table and recognized that it was a table or a window, or even if you thought to yourself, who cares, I just want this speech to be over already, like I'm thinking, then you've just used language. And the big deal about language is that we use it for everything. We use it to communicate. We use it to interpret each other's thoughts, intentions, meanings. It's how we have a basis to draw, text, write, compose music, and dream. And so you can imagine how difficult it would be to explain to somebody what it was like to fall in love for the first time, or to watch your child being born, or to describe to somebody having a beloved friend or family member pass away. And so even though there's words that help us describe these events, even when we try to convey it to people, the words that we use don't even have enough meaning to actually describe it to people, and we struggle to kind of convey our thoughts. And so if you can imagine how difficult it would be to not talk at all, like no communication. And so what exactly is language? Well, Webster's.com defines language as the system of words or signs that people use to express thoughts and feelings to others. So basically, language is how we talk to each other. It's also how we convey our meanings, thoughts, and intentions. This includes the words that we speak and write, as well as the numbers and symbols that we use on a daily basis throughout our lives. How did we learn the language that we use every day? Language is passed down from one generation to the next as part of our cultural heritage. It is learned from listening to our parents and family members, as well as watching television shows and listening to songs. Also, what language we learn depends mostly on what culture we are a part of. And this is the interesting one here. We use language to interpret all aspects of our world. For example, if you were born in the United States, there's a good chance that even your dreams will be in English. Language can also be changed very quickly by mass media and popular culture. For example, 15 years ago, bootylicious wasn't a word, and there was no such thing as a selfie.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's hard to imagine the time, right?
A world without bootylicious.
Language can also stay the same for thousands of years. A good example of this is the Egyptians. So we got the Temple of Karnak here in Luxor, Egypt. Now the Temple of Karnak wasn't built all at once. It was added on to bit by successive pharaohs. And so if we look in some of the oldest parts, we can see that here's a scene. It's Hathor giving the Anka to the pharaoh. And this is in one of the oldest parts. And it was carved somewhere around 1900 BCE, which is like about 4,000 years ago. And so the interesting thing is if we go to some of the older parts of the temple, like this here, this is a scene from an older part, and you can see that the style is unchanged. And this was carved 700 years later. And so you can imagine that 50 million Egyptians, give or take, lived and died in that 700-year span. So this would have been all of the images that they had seen for their parents, their children, their children's children, and their children's children for 700 years. And think about how young the United States is. And so could you imagine using words like twerking, boo, or fergalicious for hundreds or even thousands of years? Our words today seem to change so fast. So how did the ancient Egyptians manage to keep the same language over such a long period of time? Well, the answer to that is actually in a tomb not too far away from the Temple of Karnak. It belonged to the priest, and his name was Ramose. And his brother was chief architect to the pharaoh. And so he was well connected, and he was going to get this really nice fancy tomb. But before his tomb could be finished, the pharaoh died, his brother lost his job, and work on Ramose's temple, his funerary chamber there, had stopped. And so what happened is this was bad news for him, but good news for us, because when archaeologists went inside, they found a clue as to how it remained the same for so long. And so when they went inside, they figured that they found on the wall there was this grid system, and it was still there because the temple was unfinished. And so this is what it would have looked like while the figure was completed. And so during construction, it would have looked like that. There was a grid that was laid out, and well, we'll get to that. The proportions here, it laid out all the specifics, such as height, which was 19 squares high. The feet were, sideways, but they were each 2.5 blocks wide. It laid out all the proper proportions for making a figure. And so the archaeologists, when they took that grid and they applied it to every other image all across Egypt, they all matched. They all fit the exact same grid. And so this structured system shows why their language was able to stay unchanged for such a long time. They didn't want it to change. Structure, consistency, and order were a part of their culture, and that's why it remained the same for so long. So that's pretty neat. So language is pretty interesting. It's just as much a reflection of the human experience as art, music, philosophy, and psychology. So here's some more interesting facts about language. According to edudemic.com, there are about 7,000 languages in the world. 2,200 of those are in Asia alone. Also, there are 2,400 languages classified as being endangered, and one language, on average, dies every 14 days. So this guy here is from the Hadzabe tribe. These are the guys that speak in clicks. I don't know what I just said, but you get the idea. Also, after the Bible, which is available in 2,454 languages, the book Pinocchio is next. It's written in the second most languages. Didn't know that? Yeah, that's pretty cool. So now that we know what language is, could you really imagine your life without words? No? We've got English, we've got sign language, we've got Spanish, Greek, alien, I think that's Hebrew, Chinese. And so, with no numbers, we couldn't make any phone calls, we couldn't text, we wouldn't have any money, no basis for that, no weight and balance, no math. With symbols, there's a good symbol right there, the American symbol, Statue of Liberty, freedom right there. We've got McDonald's and Starbucks, another two important ones. And, of course, we've got Windows, which crashes like crazy, and then the peace sign. And then, of course, the most important symbol of all, bam, Batman. Interesting side note about the peace sign there. It's actually not called the peace sign. It was designed by the British in the 1950s for nuclear disarmament. It was stolen by the hippies and used for their movement. Hippies steal things.
Oh my God.
Surprising. So it's not the peace sign.
You're funny.
That was interesting. So if we didn't have any of that, how would we communicate? Look at this guy. He don't know. But even he's using body language to tell you that he doesn't know. And so how would we get around? No road signs, no nothing, no GPS, no maps, no billboards. What important information would we be missing out on? There's a sign here that, the beach is closed. Look, that's a helicopter. That's pretty cool. But I wonder why the beach is closed. That's important. I'd want to know that, right? So we would definitely be lost without language, numbers, and symbols. We depend on our language and symbols for so much, but do we even know where they originated from? English evolved from a West Germanic language and originated in places that are known today as Northern Ireland, England, Belgium, Germany, Denmark, and the Netherlands. So it had to work its way up to being a language. Also, almost 30% of the English words that we use today are of French origin. Which is funny, because the French don't have a word for entrepreneur. So we see that English is a mixed language and that it's descended from other languages, so it's no surprise that America has no official language. So who speaks what in the United States? The predominant language spoken in the United States is English at 80%, followed by Spanish at 12.4%, then Indo-European at 3.7%, and Asian and Pacific Island languages at 3%. Right, so having a country where everybody speaks the same is beneficial because it makes it easier to have business and personal relationships. I can send you an email, I can call you, and we're all speaking the same language. That makes everything easy. But for those that don't speak the primary language, everyday simple tasks like ordering food can be difficult. So we have a menu here. I don't even know what language this looks like, Chinese or Tagalog or something. I don't even know. But you recognize the food, kind of, but everything else just looks completely foreign. So even the simplest of things are made incredibly difficult. Also, those that don't speak the primary language can face discrimination. That makes a difficult life even more difficult. So that's another challenge that they would have to face. What about our numbers? Where did they come from? Well, our numbers are called Hindu-Arabic numerals. So 0 through 9, and using the 0 to actually hold a place, is a Hindu-Arabic numeral. And according to Princeton.com, a Hindu-Arab named Al-Biruni developed our number system in India around 500 BC, which is 2,500 years ago. So it then spread to and was widely used in Babylon over 2,300 years ago, which is present-day Iraq. From there, the Arabs passed it on to the Europeans in the Middle Ages, and that's how we got it today. So earlier, when I asked who played a greater role in helping America get to the moon, Neil Armstrong or Al-Biruni, it's kind of like a 50-50 thing. Everybody had to play their part. So, Slow down there. So most of the achievements that we associate as being uniquely American accomplishments were actually the combined effort of many different civilizations over the past few thousand years. So none of this could have been done without the contributions of other cultures. Bill of Rights, medical advancements, Hubble Space Telescope, Mars rover. So now we can easily see that the language that we use on a daily basis is vitally important and that it has an interesting history. We need language and communication far more than we realize. Without it, we would truly be lost. And that's it. More Egyptian stuff. Thanks for listening, guys. That's pretty much the speech. Anybody have any questions?
No.
Yeah? All right. Thank you very much. Sorry to hold everybody up for so long.
America.
America.
Bangladesh.